Hey guys, how's it going? So we got a new update today, and with the new update brings us one new banner and one new high score challenge. So I hope you guys are making the most of those daily quests we just got. Another 300 jewels per day is friggin' awesome. Means we're going to be getting a lot of jewels, like over 3,000 a week now. That's really friggin' fantastic. That's over a pool a week. It's definitely a good time to be playing this game. Anyway, so let's talk about the new medals. As is what I usually do, I typically make up some slides for us to talk about the new medals with. So let me switch over to those, and now, you're going to notice in a second, I looked at these medals, and even though I know they come straight from the manga, I couldn't help but think, and I think I'll make the thumbnail like this as well, so you probably already know my thought process, but I was thinking of, like, you know in Yu-Gi-Oh! How in the first season, he's versing off against Maximilian Pegasus, I believe it is, who basically takes all the good guys' cards and makes them into, like, evil Toon versions of the cards. I couldn't help but thinking of that. So the background music you're going to be getting today is like a lot of nostalgic TV shows, because my mind just started racing with like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball and Digimon and all that. So hope you enjoy that. I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, so today introduced a whopping total of 7 new medals into the pool. So we have basically 3 uprights and 3 reverse, each of power, speed, and magic, and then 1 special medal, and we'll get to those as we get to them. For the first sets, we've got 3 single target medals here and 3 single target medals here. Basically, they all have exactly the same multiplier. The only difference is these guys are upright and do 8 hits, where these guys are reverse and do 13 hits. So the deal with these is, and the reason they were introduced, is to introduce this brand new mechanic. At least in the Japanese version, it was brand new, which was that they raised the enemy's counter by 1. For enemies that did have a counter over their head when they hit them. Of course, Kari then comes along in our version and completely steals these guys' thunder. So a lot of you may be wondering, well, what's the point of these? Well, we'll talk about that as we keep going. Apart from the fact they look really cool. Yeah, these guys were introduced to basically help you deal with really pain in the ass enemies like the Paralysis Archer, the Sleep Archer, the Poison Archer, enemies like that. Enemies like the Werewolf and any of that kind of crap with numbers over their head that were giving you a hard time. These medals can come along and be a solution to that problem. So you really only need one of them and a copycat medal, and you can definitely have some different strategies in your deck going forward. I was thinking of like the Hades Cup that we had last time, where the final round was like 2 or 3 big bosses accompanied by 3 pain in the ass little archers with only 2 over their head, and they were definitely a significant problem. But medals like this would definitely be able to help you out with them. Unfortunately, we just didn't get them until now, but hopefully in future Hades Cup they'll be a big help. Anyway, again, these guys are single target medals, so you'd only be able to hit 1 enemy at a time, but in the case of what I just described with 3 different archers, you probably get away with just hitting the Sleep Archer, because the Sleep Archer is probably the biggest problem. And then, well, it depends what kind of deck you have. If you can clear all the enemies out in 1 turn, if you can use all your medals, then you probably want to aim for the Sleep Archer. If you want to be able to tank and you need to survive multiple turns, you might want to hit the Poison Archer, because that one will kill you 3 second chance. Anyway, we can talk about that if such an event ever comes up. I'm probably going to do 1 pull from this banner. I might not do it right now, but I'm probably going to do 1 pull from this banner, and I recommend if you didn't get Kari EX to do the same, just so in the future, if we do first enemies like that, we can go, alright, we have at least 1 of these medals, we can deal with problems like that. Anyway, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Anyway, single target medals. With 0 dots, the multiplier range is from 3.58 up to 4.24. The lower end of the multiplier is if these particular medals are at the further back into the Keyblades, so slots 3, 4, 5, and I suppose beyond into the pet slot, given that slot is technically slot 6. Anyway, the earlier you put this one in the Keyblade, the better they do. I kind of dislike medals with this condition for the multiplier, because I feel like you're never ever going to squeeze the true potential out of these medals. The reason I say that is because if you did put it at the very front of your Keyblade, for example, you would do that, but then you wouldn't be able to use any other buffs. So you get the full multiplier technically, but you then wouldn't be have any buffs backing up the medal to deal the most damage. And consequently, if you or you could put it in the 2nd or 3rd slot and put buffing medals in slot 1 and 2, but then you're not getting the full multiplier out of it. It's kind of like a catch-22 either way you look at it. Despite that though, I still don't think they're bad medals. I mean, look at that multiplier there. They're only tier 5, but that multiplier is at an absolute minimum of 10.2 if you're able to guild these things. And we'll talk about the likelihood of being able to guild them in a second as well. But that also goes for these ones as well. The multipliers are exactly the same. Like I said, the only difference is the attribute and the number of hits dealt. The different one is this guy right here. So we have Sora Toon version. Well, sorry, I should probably explain these guys first, huh? The other effect they do is raising their power or speed or magic based strength by 3 tiers for 1 turn, which is a pretty decent buff. Back in the day, it definitely would have been a very good buff, you know, akin to like HD Beast or Maui or something like that. So definitely not a terrible medal from that point of view. Unfortunately, the game has gotten a little bit further beyond strength like that. So they are kind of a little bit weak, and the fact that they are tier 5s hurts them a little bit as well. It's still not terrible. At least they buff their own attribute, and they're not the worst medals in the world for sure. So again, these guys are exactly the same. Let's talk about this guy. The main difference here is that he raises PSMs all P and S and M by 3 tiers for 2 turns. So that's a pretty decent buff. Again, if you're going for multiple turns, then you're going to be at +6 just from this guy alone. That way you can use your other medals to do debuffs instead, or get some general strength up. The multiplier works out a little bit differently because he is an AoE medal. AoE medals typically have a weaker, lower multipliers than their single target counterpoints. He's a tier 6 though, so he's still somewhat current, given that we're moving into tier 7s now. Goodness me, tier 7s already. So you can check out the multipliers in the bottom left there. His difference is he deals more damage the more HP you have. So he's very similar to an EX medal, at least in terms of the multiplier, how that stacks out. So you should pretty much always be hitting at max multiplier. I definitely like this medal. I definitely would like to have a copy of it. But we'll see what happens, I suppose. In terms of the design of the medals, I really, really like them. They're all screenshots. They're all shots taken from the various manga illustrations. So we've got the Birth by Sleep manga featured there, and Kingdom Hearts 2 manga. We've got the 358 over 2 days, and I honestly can't remember if it's Kingdom Hearts 1 or Chain of Memories. I feel like it's Chain of Memories, just the way that Riku looks there, but I could be completely wrong, and feel free to correct me if I am. And then obviously Sora is straight out of Kingdom Hearts 2. Just a side note, if you guys have never ever checked out the manga and you are fans of Kingdom Hearts, it's definitely worth a look. The stories contained within technically aren't 100% canon, because elements happen in the story a little bit differently, and at the end of the day, the games are the final say on what's canon and what's not. But they do expand on some conversations that you might not otherwise have had a chance to see. Like Days, for example, has conversations between Roxas and Shion and other members of the organization that there just weren't time to talk about in the games, or they just didn't be bothered covering. But you know, all the various organization members have their own unique little quirks and what have you, and it's pretty cool. Definitely worth a read. And like the Chain of Memories one, for example, has something of a different ending for the Riku replica. And I don't quite want to spoil that. He definitely does still die, but it's a pretty cool ending. Either way, it's a pretty cool ending. Anyway, if you are interested in that, go check them out. They're very, very cool. What I think of the banner, though, the banner is really, really cool because it's a lot like the Japanese version of our the World of Final Fantasy one. I was kind of thinking when these medals were introduced, they might do a repeat of what they did back then. For you guys who weren't aware, when they introduced the World of Final Fantasy medals, whereas in the Japanese version they did 5 medals for 1500 joules, in our version they did 10 medals for 3000, with only one World of Final Fantasy one being guaranteed. So the downside there is you were effectively getting the same amount of joules per medals, so it was still 3000 joules for 10 medals, but the difference was you were only getting one, potentially more if you were lucky, but only guaranteed one of the new banner medal. With this, we get a really cool banner because it's 1500 joules for 5, and we're guaranteed to get one every time. Really, really fantastic stuff, and given the fact that we're getting over 3000 joules per week, even if you have 0 right now, if you do all the daily quests and get your daily logins, by the end of the week, you could potentially do 2 pulls from this banner. So, very, very cool. Very, very cool. Should you, though? Should you? If you have Kairi EX, if you have Kairi EX and you're not a big spender in this game, I don't think there is any point going for these medals. And the reason I say that is because you want medals that are going to really make the absolute hardest hits you can possibly have, right? For that, you need really high multipliers. And for that, you need to guilt your medals. Now, what's the chances of actually pulling and being able to guilt one of these medals if you pull off this banner, right? There are 7 here. We're going to assume that these 3 and these 3 are going to be the common ones that are going to appear. And honestly, this one's going to be quite rare. We can assume that from when the World of Final Fantasy banner came around and when the Sum Medal banner came around. What was really rare? There was World of Final Fantasy Sora that was rare as all hell because he was the bonus one, I suppose. He was the additional elevated tier one, and same with World of Final Fantasy is Sora and Riku, I believe. I didn't even pull on that banner, so I don't know. But in any case, there is a banner that comes out with a set of themed medals. Most of them are commonplace, and there is one typically that is a higher tier and also a much, much higher rarity. So just for the sake of argument, we can basically, let's just say we won't pull any Kingdom Hearts 2 Soras at all. It's going to be possible, and some people obviously will, but for the sake of argument, let's say we're not going to pull any Soras. Let's say you have a goal of just guilting one of these guys, alright? What is the likelihood of that happening? Okay, so you do one pull, and you get, let's say you get Ventus here. Let's say you get him, okay? What are the odds? So he's got either 1 dot, 2 dots, or 3 dots on him, okay? Best case scenario, he's got 3. Best case scenario, he gets 3 dots, and then you do one more pull and he gets 3 dots again. So absolute best case scenario, you do 2 pulls and you're able to guilt him, right? The likelihood of that happening is very small because you need to A, do one pull first and get him with either 2 or 3 dots. If you get him with 2 dots, then you have a very tiny chance of getting him with 3 dots, right? And that's the only condition in which you can guilt him in 2 pulls. You have a 1 in 6 chance of just getting him again, right? And then you have a, let's divide that 1 in 6 chance, assuming it's an even probability of getting 1 dot, 2 dots, or 3 dots. You need to get, if you pull him with 2 dots in your first pull, you need to get the probability of him having 3 dots in your second pull, which, assuming they're being fair, is a 1 in 3. So already that's a 1 in 18 chance of being able to guilt him within 2 turns. Again, I'm just making this up on the fly. I'm just trying to illustrate that if you do want to chase these things and try and guilt them, that's a really good goal because I think they are quite decent medals and they have unique probabilities behind them. Sorry, properties behind them. But the probability of guilting one is kind of crappy. But hey, at least it's only 1500 joules per pull. You could do 2 pulls and not feel guilty at all, especially if you've already got Kairi. You could do 1 or 2 pulls depending on how hard you want to go in the high score challenge, and we'll talk about that. Sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought there. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that if you have Kairi, I don't think you definitely need to pull at all, but you could pretty guiltlessly do 1 and 2 pulls in this banner, just to sate your own curiosity. You're probably not going to get anything amazing from them, and you're most likely not going to be able to get a guilted medal out of it. But if you are still saving up for foretellers, 1500 joules, maybe even 3000, it's not that big of an investment, given how many joules we are getting these days. But bear in mind, foretellers are going to be around very, very soon, so you might want to have as many joules as possible. But, let me know what you guys do. For people that don't have Kairi EX, I would definitely recommend pulling at least once, just to get this kind of medal again into your deck. So if a Hades Cup situation ever comes up again, where you really, really need to mess around with the counter of enemies' heads, then yeah, at least you can do something about it. You can definitely do something about it. Even the weekly gem quest featured tons of enemies with shitty little counters over their heads, and they're really quite annoying. So I reckon 1500 joule investment right now is definitely going to pay off for gems in the future, for potentially Hades Cup in the future. I'm going to do a pull just so I can make guides based around having these medals. So if you do like my guides and you don't want me using Kairi EX in a video, which is completely fair enough, then I'm going to do a pull for you guys just so I can make content that's hopefully applicable to you. So we'll get a lot of 0.2 Kairis going and we'll get some 2 medals going. It's going to be a good time. Did I want to say anything else? Obviously the foretellers are coming up very soon, so here's the problem though. If you didn't get Kairi EX, you probably bankrupted yourself trying to do it, so if we're going to get a really exorbitant amount of either a 15 pull Mercy or a really, really tiny rate of them appearing, then it's like, are you going to have enough? Are you going to be able to save up enough anyway if you are free to play to be able to Mercy them by the time they come out? Probably not. So in that case, what's 1500 joules now then? Is it going to make that big of a difference in a couple of weeks when the foretellers come out? I don't know. But in any case, I would say if you don't have Kairi, these are definitely worth picking up. I know the foretellers ignore the counters over enemies' heads, but I think a medal like this that adds 1 to the counter is definitely worth having. I think I've rambled enough. I just want to talk a little bit about the high score challenge. Alright, these cheeky little shits. Let me switch to the game. Okay, so the Sora and Neko deal is the high score challenge that's currently going. This medal I'm not the biggest fan of. It's kind of cool, but as like everything nowadays, any buffer seems kind of irrelevant when faced with freaking that queen we just got. Again, it's not a bad medal, but this is really, really cheeky right here. So, all the Toon Medals are score bonus multipliers, as well as the 2 different Nekos. No Kari to be seen though. No Kari to be seen. I don't know what that means in terms of the gameplay design, because that's never happened before, I don't believe, where they just outright entirely skipped a banner. A featured banner medal when they have a new high score challenge. I don't know if that means that somewhere down the line there will be a high score challenge featuring Kari EX. I don't know if this is some sort of proof that Kari EX was like massively jumped forward, like they'd already programmed this high score challenge in and hadn't included Kari in it. And then someone down the line was like, hey, guess what, we need to bump Kari EX up ahead a few weeks, so put her up now. And they've just never bothered to update the high score challenge, or they have no intention of updating the high score challenge. Now that it's out, I don't think they definitely do. Yeah, very, very cheeky. Very, very cheeky. So I might end up having to do a pull anyway, just to be slightly competitive in the challenge. But I don't know, as much as I like this medal, I'm probably not going to go chasing it. Just because it only restores 2 gauges and raises your strength by 2 tiers, which is kind of irrelevant. The defense down by 2 tiers is definitely nice. But yeah, I don't know. I'm never going to hit top 1000 in a high score challenge like this, so I don't know. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough, guys. Let me know what you think. Are you excited about the 2 medals? Are you going to do some pulls for them? Let me know your situation. Are you with Kari, without Kari? Are you saving for foretellers? What's your plans? So yeah, let me know, guys. All the best. Bye.